What you're about to hear is an exploration of geopolitical events, historical theories, and spiritual interpretations. This video aims to provoke thought, encourage critical observation, and explore potential connections, not to present definitive truths, incite fear, or promote any specific religious or political agenda. The responsibility for final interpretation is always yours. The internet went dark. Nuclear inspectors were expelled. Underground facilities are rapidly expanding. And now, whispers of a threat to the world's oil supply. Something profound is happening in Iran, and the global silence is deafening. Is this the final sign, the trigger for prophetic events set to culminate by 2026? This video meticulously uncovers the alarming escalation, the digital blackout, and the secret operations hinting at a coming storm. The history repeats, but the ending is uncertain. Are we witnessing the quiet ignition of a global reset, where control becomes the ultimate currency? They shut down the internet. They expelled nuclear inspectors. They started building deep underground. And now they are threatening to close the strait through which 25% of the world's oil passes. But why? What exactly is Iran preparing for? And why do the signs point to 2026 as the breaking point for all of this? The Middle East, a region perpetually on the brink, crucible of ancient prophecies and modern conflicts. For decades, Iran, formerly Persia, has been a central player, its actions often shrouded in secrecy, its ambitions a source of global concern. But since the beginning of 2025, something fundamental has shifted. What started as a simmering diplomatic crisis has rapidly escalated, transforming Iran into the undeniable epicenter of a geopolitical, spiritual, and technological storm unlike anything seen in decades. This isn't just about a nation seeking power. It's about a series of calculated moves that, when viewed through a prophetic lens, paint a chilling picture of an impending global pivot. The turning point, the definitive spark in this escalating tension, was a single, defiant act: the abrupt withdrawal of the last inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency, IA. This isn't a mere diplomatic spat. It signifies a profound shift. For the first time in decades, the world stands completely blind, unable to know, officially at least, the true extent of what Iran is doing with its enriched uranium. The silence from inside its hidden facilities is now deafening, replacing international oversight with an ominous void. This lack of transparency is not merely a breach of international agreements. It is a calculated step towards an unknown, potentially terrifying capability. Simultaneously, whispers turned into confirmed reports of secret bombings in Iranian nuclear facilities, targets like Fordow and Natanz. These weren't random acts. They were precise, surgical strikes deep within the nation's most heavily guarded sites. Experts globally, though careful with their words, pointed fingers directly at Israel and the United States as the likely perpetrators of these covert attacks. Such audacious acts, striking at the heart of a sovereign nation's strategic assets, were previously considered unthinkable. They signal an escalating shadow war, a direct challenge that demands a forceful response, pushing the region further towards open conflict. And a forceful response indeed came. In an act that shattered long-held geopolitical norms, Tehran launched a direct military retaliation against Tel Aviv and other Israeli cities. This was not through proxies, not through covert operations, but with its own arsenal of long-range missiles and advanced drones. The images of interceptors lighting up the night sky over the Middle East, the sounds of air raid sirens in cities that rarely heard them, sent a chilling message across the globe. Such a direct confrontation was, until recently, utterly beyond the realm of possibility. It signifies a new phase in this dangerous game, where the lines between shadow war and open conflict are blurring at an alarming rate, hinting at an impending culmination of prophecies that speak of nations rising in fury. While the world watched, horrified, as headlines screamed about retaliatory strikes and escalating nuclear concerns, a far more insidious preparation was unfolding within Iran's borders. The international community focused on the skies and the centrifuges, but the true architects of this shift were orchestrating a silent revolution, the digital blackout. The Iranian government swiftly and decisively shut down the national internet. This wasn't a temporary glitch or a partial disruption. It was a comprehensive, deliberate severing of access for millions of its own citizens, one of the largest internet blackouts ever recorded. The official justification, delivered with an air of absolute authority, was national security. They claimed it was a necessary measure to protect the nation from external threats and internal dissent during a period of heightened tension. But in practice, what quickly emerged was a chilling intensification of a new model of domestic repression, one that many intelligence analysts and human rights observers are now openly calling the North Korean model. This isn't just about controlling information. It's about controlling minds, stifling dissent at its root, and forging an entirely new social contract built on absolute compliance. The details that seeped out were terrifying. A mass confiscation of cell phones. Security forces conducted widespread raids, seizing personal mobile devices from citizens, especially in areas suspected of dissent. These weren't just random searches. They were targeted efforts to eliminate any independent means of communication or organization. Warrantless arrests and disappearances. Reports of individuals, particularly activists, journalists, and anyone suspected of opposition, being arrested without warrants and disappearing into the vast network of state prisons became rampant. The fear of arbitrary detention became a pervasive shadow over daily life. A total social media censorship. Any remaining access to international social media platforms was completely blocked. The digital public square was eradicated, replaced by a state-controlled intranet where all information was filtered and managed. A 24-hour state propaganda. With no independent news sources, state-run television and radio broadcasted a relentless, 24-hour stream of official propaganda, portraying the government as righteous and its actions as divinely ordained. Citizens were bombarded with a singular narrative, designed to shape every thought and emotion. As the state tightened its grip on the digital and informational landscape, the true internal collapse that the government desperately tried to hide began to intensify. Strikes by truck drivers, teachers, doctors, and even bakers exploded across more than 150 cities and towns. These weren't just small protests. They were widespread acts of defiance, revealing a profound and systemic internal rut, an economic and social breakdown fueled by years of corruption and mismanagement. The government's response: to amplify repression, violently crushing dissent with a chilling efficiency honed by their digital blackout. The irony is stark. While they prepared for external conflict, their own people were being strangled by invisible digital chains, a testament to how control is the currency of the future. While Iran was enacting its brutal internal digital crackdown, the shadows of the geopolitical chessboard lengthened, revealing the extent of secret operations that pushed the region ever closer to open, devastating conflict. These weren't just diplomatic maneuvers. They were precise, calculated moves in a high-stakes game where the stakes were nothing less than regional and perhaps global stability. According to highly placed Western intelligence sources, the Mossad, Israel's notorious intelligence agency, had dramatically escalated its covert operations deep inside Iran. This wasn't merely about gathering information. It was about direct, undeniable action. Reports surfaced of spy drones operating with unprecedented frequency and daring over sensitive Iranian military and nuclear sites. Even more chilling were the whispers of internal sabotage bases, meticulously established within Iranian borders, capable of executing precision strikes and disrupting critical infrastructure from within. This aggressive shadow warfare, aimed at crippling Iran's nuclear ambitions and destabilizing its regime, lit a blazing red alert that a direct, open, and perhaps inevitable conflict was drawing perilously close. Adding fuel to this already volatile fire, the Iranian parliament issued a grave, unprecedented threat: to close the Strait of Hormuz. This isn't just a political statement. It's an economic nuclear option. The Strait of Hormuz is the world's most critical oil transit choke point, through which approximately 25% of the world's total petroleum liquids consumption flows daily. If this measure were to be approved and enacted, the immediate consequence would be catastrophic. The global price of oil would skyrocket overnight, triggering an instantaneous and devastating economic domino effect across all major Western powers, plunging the world into an unprecedented energy crisis. This threat transformed the regional conflict into a global economic weapon, leveraging resource control as the ultimate currency. Beyond the strategic military and economic maneuvers, the Iranian government also intensified the ideological conflict. They publicly issued new fatwas against prominent foreign leaders, specifically naming figures like former U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. These religious edicts, seen by millions as binding decrees, weren't just symbolic gestures. They were direct, spiritual declarations of war, intensifying the already bitter ideological clash between the radicalized Islam and the Western world. This move elevated the conflict from mere geopolitical sparring to a deeply personal and religiously charged struggle. hinting at a holy war that would draw in untold numbers. These secret operations, veiled threats, and ideological declarations are not isolated incidents. They are interconnected threads in a grander design, pulling the region and the world towards an unseen culmination. The silence from official channels, the lack of widespread public discussion, is perhaps the most terrifying clue. It suggests that the powers that be are either deeply concerned, or perhaps complicit in allowing this dangerous escalation to proceed, all part of a plan where control is the currency of the future. With the current patterns rapidly unfolding in Iran, the global community, both geopolitical analysts and prophetic scholars, are now forced to confront a series of increasingly likely scenarios that point directly to 2026 as a critical turning point. These aren't mere predictions. They are extrapolations based on escalating tensions and ancient prophecies that seem to find new resonance in today's headlines. The most immediate and chilling scenario is that of silent nuclear development. With IAEA inspectors expelled and a veil of secrecy drawn tight, Iran may now be mere months away from constructing a functional nuclear warhead. Intelligence reports, though unconfirmed, suggest a veiled support from global powers like Russia or China, who might benefit from a destabilized Middle East and a weakened Western hegemony. If Iran crosses the nuclear threshold, the world enters an entirely new era of proliferation, potentially triggering a regional arms race that would reshape the global power balance irreversibly. This silent race against the clock is a testament to the hidden strategies playing out for ultimate control. The threat of closing the Strait of Hormuz looms larger than ever. A move of this magnitude would not just initiate a devastating regional war, dragging in major global naval powers, but would undeniably shatter Western economies. The global oil supply, choked at its most vital artery, would send shockwaves through every industry, every household. Such an economic catastrophe could, in turn, justify a swift and overwhelming international military occupation of Iran, designed to reopen the strait and secure global energy supplies. This scenario is a chilling example of how strategic resource control becomes the ultimate currency dictating global action. Domestically, the situation inside Iran is a ticking time bomb, leading to the potential for an internal explosion. The widespread protests, driven by a desperate populace weary of repression and economic collapse, are a powerful, undeniable force. If these internal dissent movements gain enough momentum, the current regime could either violently collapse from within, sparking a civil war, or more likely, respond with an unprecedented intensification of repression, backed by foreign militias aligned with the regime. This internal crackdown would make the previous digital blackout seem minor, a chilling manifestation of absolute control over a desperate populace. Beyond the geopolitical and social analyses, a profound and terrifying interpretation comes from various religious scholars. Religious figures from diverse faiths and denominations are now openly interpreting the escalating events in Iran as part of a final spiritual war, directly linked to ancient end-times prophecies. They point to biblical texts and sacred writings that depict Iran, ancient Persia, playing a central, often aggressive, role in a grand cosmic conflict against Israel and Western powers. The current escalation, the technological and spiritual implications of the digital blackout, are seen as undeniable fulfillment, a divinely ordained tipping point that marks the beginning of the end. This isn't just politics, it's prophecy unfolding before our very eyes. If these patterns are unfolding with such chilling precision, if Iran's actions seem almost predetermined to trigger a global crisis, then the profound, unsettling question must be asked. Is this merely a series of escalating coincidences, or are these events part of something far more orchestrated, a meticulously crafted blueprint designed by unseen architects? Remember our core principle: there are no coincidences, only plans. Throughout history, whispers of secret societies, powerful elites, and hidden agendas have persisted, resonating with a terrifying truth often dismissed as folklore. From the alleged influence of groups like the Illuminati in revolutionary shifts to modern-day theories of a deep state manipulating global policy, the idea of a hidden cabal orchestrating major global events is deeply ingrained in our collective psyche. What if their ultimate goal isn't overt military conquest, but a more insidious form of manipulation, a psychological conditioning, a spiritual disarming, meticulously designed to prepare humanity for a profound shift in power or reality, where control is the ultimate currency? Consider how these seemingly disparate elements, Iran's nuclear ambitions, the digital blackout, the threat to global oil, the internal crackdowns, actually work in concert. The escalating tensions in the Middle East create a demand for new forms of global governance and control. The digital blackout perfects methods of social engineering and censorship. The economic threats justify radical international interventions. Each piece, seemingly isolated, serves a larger, unseen purpose in a complex geopolitical chess game. This chapter forces us to confront the possibility that the crisis in Iran is not just a natural evolution of regional dynamics, but a meticulously planned cadence, as we explored in previous analyses of historical blueprints, designed to weaken global resistance, test new forms of control, and ultimately consolidate power. Could powerful entities be leveraging existing global vulnerabilities, exacerbating tensions, and manipulating narratives to create a new world order, one where individual freedom and critical thought are gradually eroded, replaced by compliant, easily managed global population? The narratives we consume about Iran, the very way we react to its actions, the silence from major powers, what if these are all carefully orchestrated elements of a larger blueprint? What if the awakening that is so desperately needed is not just a spiritual one, but an awakening to the strings that are being pulled, to the silent architects of our apparent chaos? This is not about fear-mongering, but about empowering you to see beyond the surface, to question the status quo, and to recognize the chilling possibility that your perception of reality itself is part of a grand design, unfolding rapidly as we approach 2026. Beyond the geopolitical and conspiratorial layers, the events unfolding in Iran gain a chilling new dimension when viewed through the lens of ancient religious prophecies. Across diverse faiths and millennia, sacred texts have hinted at a time of great upheaval, often pointing directly to the Middle East as the stage for final, pivotal events. The current crisis in Iran, subtle as its origins may seem, echoes these timeless warnings with terrifying precision, suggesting that the history repeats, but the ending is uncertain. Consider the biblical warnings, particularly those found in the Old Testament books of Ezekiel, Daniel, and Isaiah. These prophecies speak of a coalition of nations rising against Israel in the last days, often led by a power from the north, or the land of Magog. Many modern biblical scholars and end-times interpreters identify Iran, ancient Persia, as a key player in these prophesied alliances. The current escalation of Iran's nuclear ambitions, its direct military posture towards Israel, and its increasing influence in the region are seen by some as undeniable fulfillments of these ancient texts. Ezekiel 38, for instance, describes a force led by Gog of the land of Magog, including Persia, Iran, Cush, Sudan/Ethiopia, and Put Libya, assembling to attack Israel. The sayings often cited include the precise timing of this rising power. The silent nuclear development and the threat to close the Strait of Hormuz take on a terrifying new meaning when seen as preparations for this prophesied conflict. This isn't just about modern geopolitics. It's about ancient scripture seemingly coming to life before our very eyes. Furthermore, other prophecies speak of global turmoil, a great separation or apostasy, where humanity would face internal, rather than purely external, reckoning. The digital blackout in Iran, the systematic suppression of dissent, and the rise of pervasive state propaganda can be interpreted as a chilling preview of how control is the currency of the future in a spiritual sense, the control of information, of thought, of access to truth, preparing the ground for a global stage where discernment is compromised. These ancient prophecies, once viewed through the lens of abstract allegory, now appear to be chillingly accurate blueprints for our current era. They suggest that the events in Iran are not merely random political shifts, but are part of a larger, divinely orchestrated timeline, a subtle spiritual battle unfolding for the soul of humanity. The messages across different prophetic traditions seem to converge on one central point. The Middle East, and specifically Iran, is a critical clock in the final countdown. This isn't about predicting a specific date for an external event. It's about recognizing that the end might already be unfolding silently within the very fabric of our daily lives, urging us to question everything. The escalation in Iran, though seemingly contained by regional borders, is sending invisible shockwaves across the globe, reaching far beyond the battlefields of the Middle East. The threat to close the Strait of Hormuz, in particular, holds a potential to trigger an unprecedented global economic crisis, proving that control is the currency of the future, and energy is its most volatile form. Imagine the immediate aftermath of such a closure. Global oil prices would not just rise, they would skyrocket to unimaginable levels overnight, crippling industries, soaring transportation costs, and triggering widespread inflation that would erode purchasing power in every major economy, from the United States to Europe and Asia. Gasoline prices at American pumps would become astronomical, paralyzing commerce and daily life. Supply chains, already fragile, would collapse under the weight of exponential costs, leading to widespread shortages of essential goods. This isn't just an economic recession, It's a forced global reset, orchestrated by a single choke point. The implications extend beyond the immediate financial impact. A global energy crisis of this magnitude would inevitably lead to unprecedented social unrest. Protests fueled by economic hardship would erupt in cities worldwide, challenging governments and exacerbating existing social divisions. The control exerted by those who hold the keys to energy would become absolute, dictating which nations survive and which falter. This would force a radical reevaluation of global energy policies, driving a desperate search for alternatives, but not before immense suffering. Furthermore, the response to such a move would be swift and severe. An international military intervention, likely led by the United States and its allies, will be almost inevitable, aimed at reopening the strait and securing global energy supplies. This would transform the regional conflict into a massive international confrontation, drawing major global naval powers into a direct military engagement, escalating the conflict to a terrifying new level. The lines between a contained crisis and a global war would blur, reflecting ancient prophecies of nations clashing on an unprecedented scale. The very fact that such a catastrophic scenario is openly discussed, yet simultaneously viewed with a sense of inevitability by some and ignored by others, is chilling. It points to a deep-seated societal blind spot, an unwillingness to confront the full implications of geopolitical moves and resource control. The silence from many official channels, the lack of widespread public debate on these dire possibilities, is the most terrifying evidence of a world being prepared for a shift it does not yet comprehend, where the history repeats, but the ending is uncertain. And in this uncertainty, the true battle for control is waged, not with bullets, but with access to the very resources that fuel modern life. If the events in Iran are indeed part of a grander design, a series of signs culminating in 2026, then the obvious and most unsettling question remains: who are the architects of this blueprint? Who are these unseen forces meticulously guiding geopolitical tensions, suppressing information, and positioning global powers for what appears to be a monumental shift? The answer, shrouded in layers of secrecy and disinformation, points to an entity far more complex and pervasive than a single, easily identifiable nation or political leader. There are no coincidences, only plans. Traditional conspiracy theories point to secret societies like the Illuminati or powerful, unelected global elites. These theories suggest that these entities operate through a vast, interconnected network of influence, transcending national borders and political ideologies. Their power, if true, lies not in overt commands, but in their unparalleled ability to subtly influence policy, discreetly fund strategic research, acquire key resources, and meticulously shape public opinion without ever revealing their true hand. They pull strings in the shadows, orchestrating events to serve a long-term agenda. Consider the interplay of global finance, technology, and governance. Are the world's most powerful private banks and financial institutions, operating from the traditional power centers of London City and New York's Wall Street, merely driven by profit? Or are they interconnected nodes in a larger financial web, quietly implementing economic recalibrations through debt, digital currency initiatives, and controlled market fluctuations that drive nations into reliance? Their pursuit of ultimate financial leverage could be serving a purpose far beyond market dominance. And what about the tech giants of Silicon Valley, California, building the very infrastructure of our digital lives? What if their innovations, AI, social media platforms, pervasive biometric systems, are not just commercial endeavors, but tools being subtly guided by this unseen influence to construct the invisible digital chains and facilitate the engineered consensus? As we explored in a previous deep dive, their relentless pursuit of universal connectivity could inadvertently be creating a global surveillance and control grid, where data becomes the ultimate currency of power. Furthermore, the think tanks and policy groups operating in the hushed corridors of power in Washington, D.C. and Brussels, organizations that shape global policy, propose solutions to crises, and influence public discourse, could be more than just intellectual hubs. What if they are conduits through which the narrative control is meticulously crafted and disseminated, pushing specific agendas under the guise of expert opinion or public interest? Their intellectual influence could be shaping not just policy, but public perception, preparing populations for radical shifts. The true architects, the ciphers suggest, are a pervasive, interconnected network of influence. Their power lies in the synergy of these seemingly disparate sectors. It's the collaboration between finance, technology, media, and policymaking, a silent, coordinated effort where each piece serves a larger, unseen purpose. Their ultimate goal is not necessarily destruction, but absolute, unchallenged control, where control is the currency of the future, and every facet of human existence becomes a managed commodity within their grand design for 2026. The unfolding events in Iran, therefore, are not isolated incidents but meticulously planned steps in a global chess game, designed to push humanity towards a predetermined future. As the clock ticks relentlessly towards 2026, the patterns of these preparations are intensifying across the globe, creating a terrifying alignment that demands our immediate attention. The very silence that shrouds these events is, perhaps, the loudest warning of all. The global stage is set, and nations find themselves on a precipice, seemingly unaware of the forces that might be guiding their steps toward a predetermined future. The political landscape of the world is more volatile than ever. Nationalistic sentiments are surging in Europe, from the United Kingdom to France, leading to protectionist policies and the erosion of international cooperation. Alliances, once strong, show deep cracks, and regional conflicts, from Eastern Europe to Africa, escalate with terrifying speed, drawing in external powers. This isn't just about internal politics. It's about a systematic fracturing of the global order, making collective action against larger threats impossible. The engineered consensus ensures populations are too divided, too consumed by internal conflict, to recognize the external strengths. The global economy, teetering on the brink, experiences unprecedented volatility. Supply chains are routinely disrupted, inflation becomes endemic, and major financial systems show signs of deep, systemic fragility. While official reports blame external factors, these economic shocks feel suspiciously like controlled detonations, preparing the ground for the economic recalibration outlined in the blueprints. Nations become increasingly reliant on international loans and centralized financial bodies, subtly surrendering sovereignty for economic stability, proving that control is the currency of the future. Furthermore, the digital landscape is becoming the ultimate battleground. Cyber attacks of unprecedented scale target critical infrastructure in the United States, from power grids in Texas to water treatment facilities in California. These attacks, often attributed to unknown actors, create a pervasive sense of vulnerability, pushing governments and citizens towards greater reliance on secure, centrally controlled technological solutions. The integration of advanced AI into every facet of daily life, from surveillance to information filtering, solidifies the invisible digital chains, making escape from the digital control grid almost impossible. The pervasive feeling that the history repeats, but the ending is uncertain, hangs heavy in the air. We see echoes of past conflicts, past economic crises, past societal divisions. Yet, the scale, the interconnectedness, and the speed of these events suggest something far more sinister than mere historical repetition. It points to a deliberate orchestration, a careful manipulation of global dynamics to achieve a specific outcome by 2026. The world is being guided into a new era, willingly or unwillingly, by unseen hands. As 2026 looms, the true, terrifying nature of the preparations becomes chillingly clear. The ultimate goal is not just power or wealth, but absolute existential control. This is where control is the currency of the future reaches its most literal and terrifying manifestation. These are not merely economic, social, or technological shifts. They are the subtle, yet pervasive steps towards a future where compliance is rewarded with survival, and dissent is met with the silent, insidious withdrawal of basic necessities. Imagine a world where access to essential resources, clean water, nutritious food, vital medicine, is no longer a given, but a privilege. The resource consolidation play, completed under the radar, means that vast portions of global sustenance are now controlled by a select few powerful, untraceable entities. In a time of engineered scarcity, perhaps triggered by climate events or economic disruptions, compliance with a new digital identity and social score system becomes paramount for survival. Your ability to access food might depend on your digital trust score. Your eligibility for medical treatment might be tied to your adherence to new social norms. This isn't about punishment. It's about making life itself conditional on obedience. The integration of the invisible digital chains and the engineered consensus creates a seamless, inescapable ecosystem of control. Every action, every thought, every belief is subtly monitored and guided. Dissenters are not publicly executed. They are simply cut off. Their digital identity is revoked, their access to financial systems terminated, their ability to move freely restricted, their information sources manipulated to the point of isolation. They become non-persons, invisible within a society that has no room for non-compliance. This is the ultimate silent prison, built by convenience and sustained by digital dependence. The fact that these chilling mechanisms are being implemented without widespread public debate, without a global outcry, is the most terrifying evidence of their success. It suggests that humanity, blinded by distraction and lulled by promises of efficiency and security, is sleepwalking into a future where its very freedom is traded for a manufactured sense of order. The narrative is so meticulously controlled, the information so carefully curated, that the average citizen simply cannot perceive the bars of their own cage. This isn't a future of literal chains. It's a future of invisible, systemic ones, far more insidious because they are self-imposed, accepted under the guise of progress. By 2026, the blueprint will be complete. The ultimate currency will be control, and its value will be measured in human compliance. The warning is clear, the history repeats, but the ending is uncertain. The question is no longer if these preparations are happening, but what we are willing to do to prevent a future where humanity's destiny is dictated by an unseen hand, and our very lives become a commodity. The chilling reality of the preparations for 2026 is no longer a distant theory, it is the very fabric of our present. As we navigate this pivotal year, the subtle signs we've explored are intensifying, demanding our immediate, unwavering attention. Is it a mere coincidence that global society is experiencing an unprecedented integration of surveillance, a pervasive manipulation of information, and a quiet, systematic consolidation of vital resources? Or are these undeniable symptoms of a grander, meticulously orchestrated design, a strategic blueprint guiding humanity towards a predetermined future where free will becomes an archaic concept? The question no longer is if these forces are at play, but what we are willing to do with this unsettling, paradigm-shifting knowledge. The central message is undeniable, resonating with a terrifying clarity. Control is the currency of the future, and that currency is being meticulously established, being forged and perfected through the insidious integration of the invisible digital chains, the omnipresent engineered consensus, and the absolute resource consolidation play. These aren't just abstract concepts debated in academic circles. They are the very experiences of your daily life, intensifying with every passing moment, demanding a choice. Remain passive and allow these changes to sweep over you, or courageously choose to awaken and reclaim your agency. This isn't about fear-mongering. It's about profound empowerment. It's about recognizing that you hold the key to your own perception, to your own autonomy, to your very capacity for genuine freedom. You have the power to resist the subtle yet powerful currents of control, to question the manufactured narratives, to actively seek out genuine, unadulterated information, and to fiercely protect your privacy and your personal liberty against an encroaching system. Your conscious awareness, your personal awakening, can be the crucial spark that ignites the larger, collective change, one vigilant soul at a time. Remember, the blueprint is not an external, unavoidable force that dictates your destiny with absolute predetermination. It is fundamentally a series of meticulously planned cadences, collective and individual choices that either lead you further into the comfortable, alluring illusion, or bravely guide you towards the challenging, often uncomfortable light of truth. The future of humanity may hinge not on grand, cataclysmic, apocalyptic events, but on whether enough individuals choose to consciously awaken, to truly see the strings being pulled, and to courageously resist dancing blindly to a predetermined tune. So I challenge you directly, here and now. Take a moment. Look around you, truly look beyond the surface. Disconnect from the pervasive, distracting noise. Reconnect with independent thought, with your own inner voice. Question the dominant narratives. Cultivate your discernment, sharpen your critical thinking. Recognize the subtle, yet profound shifts occurring in our world and within ourselves. The preparations may have begun, but their ultimate outcome is not yet fully written. Leave your deepest thoughts and insights in the comments below. Have you felt these subtle preparations in your own life? What steps are you taking to resist this increasing, pervasive control? Do you possess the courage, the conviction, the inner fortitude to share this vital warning with your friends, your family, your world? Share this video far and wide. Let's collectively unravel the profound mysteries that powerful entities tirelessly attempt to hide from us all. The time for passive observation, for comfortable ignorance is over. The time for conscious awakening and decisive action has arrived. Your choice today shapes tomorrow's reality. What will your legacy be in a world where control is the ultimate currency?